Hey everybody, this is Nick in London, and now here for a special episode of The Hour of Nick. This is of course the April episode, and well, after a big event that happened just a few days ago, I think it's gonna be pretty obvious what this particular video will be about because, well, we just had a huge bombshell drop, specifically a new Nintendo console bombshell, the Switch 2. This is gonna be a fun thing to get into, and luckily I'm joined by several other great people to talk about it as well. They are, of course, my good friend Mark, my friend ToadinWonderland, another friend of mine, Armon 2017, and of course, VideoGameFan96 aka Dominic, who, by the way, also happens to have a birthday in just a few days from now. So if all of you want to, feel free to say hi. So yeah, guys, there's definitely going to be a lot to get into here, and definitely for sure, you know, I think a good amount of it for sure is definitely going to be positive, but there's also definitely going to be some negative things, particularly towards the end of this podcast that we're going to have to address as well, because it's kind of making its runs on the internet. But either way, for the most part, though, I'm going to stick to you know, what's been revealed about the console and what we're looking forward to and stuff. So to start things off, I will go ahead and mention, of course, one of the big things they announced during the Direct in terms of like you know, the new features of the Switch 2, and that is, of course, going to be game chat. And I gotta say, you know, even though, of course, some of this does look primitive in terms of, like, you know, like the gameplay footage and stuff, and even, like, how it's being handled, it's still really, really cool. You know, obviously, Nintendo is kind of late to the game on this front in terms of, like, being able to, allowing its users to chat with other people who are playing their games, but it's still great that we're finally getting it nonetheless. And the fact that, you know, it's clear that they're trying to make the social aspect of this console a pretty big part of it is very nice. Obviously, I do see some people complaining about the fact that, you know, it's going to use an require non-much description to use, but considering, of course, and imagine most of the people that using this are going to be, you know, using Orders Online anyway, I don't necessarily see a problem with that part. But regardless, it is definitely cool to see for sure.
Oh yeah, for sure. As for me personally, with the whole game chatting thing, it does seem pretty cool with the, you know, the camera, I guess, sold separately, I believe, and, I mean, from what I saw in the trailer, it did seem pretty cool, you know, I mean, from what I saw in the trailer, it seemed that when they were showing out the game chat, it seemed that with the thing, it seemed like it was running at like 5 frames per second, but I guess I'll let it slide though, because I'm gonna assume if it's like two players, then you know the frame rate will be better. And besides, I'm not complaining too much anyways, regardless of things, because I don't really see myself using this kind of feature. If anything, I'll just continue to be using Discord. But hey, the people who doesn't want to use Discord for whatever reason, and they decide to use the game chatting thing on the Switch 2, they are more than welcome to do so.
Yeah, I mean...
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So, we're going to say something, Armand, I apologize.
No, I'm not just I'll say, yeah. It's pretty cool, like, that they have that kind of feature.
Oh yeah, for sure.
That reminds me of the Wii U, in a way, where, you know, where the Wii U had a game chatting thing, specifically in the Wii U gamepad, you know, so it is nice that Nintendo, they are doing another thing similar to what the Wii U did.
Yeah, that was kind of a little bit different, though, than what this is, but it is still nonetheless cool to see them kind of bring it back in some form regardless, and I do agree with you that it's probably not going to be something I utilize too, specifically because of Discord. I'm probably not going to utilize it that much, especially since I'm sure the voice quality and stuff will probably be very inferior, but like I said, it is still a cool feature to have, and if nothing else, I might at least play around with it and see, you know, what's about and all that stuff, particularly if I get my hands on a USB-C camera, because, you know, the camera integration, as cheesy as it looks, I think I can't imagine actually being pretty fun at certain parts.
Yeah, I feel like there's going to be certain games where the incorporation of it's going to still be amusing nonetheless to use it. Because, I mean, Mario Party Jamboree pops to mind just from what was kind of demonstrated already to some capacity. But, I mean, kind of like what Dominic had shared already, Nintendo was not shy about showing, hey, like, we do realize we're kind of late in the back, and we might not have the best quality of it, but we still want to implement the feature and let's see, you know, who else is kind of willing to gauge it and just give it a go. I mean, I'll be honest, it is nice that there is screen share through the Switch too, at least, because not everyone has capture cards to share their game footage from their, like, game console and TV to, like, something like Discord, so that's one advantage I could see out of it. But quality's gonna be
Yeah, for sure.
Well, I'm just gonna say, you know, at least it's better than using the Nintendo Switch Online app. I'll give it that at least.
Oh yeah, for sure. It's not even a question.
Yeah, but they really do need to focus on what they're gonna tie when it comes to quality, though. That's very apparent.
Yeah.
So hopefully, I'm hoping that with enough people, like, kind of voicing, hey, like, we'd love to use this, but do something about the lag and the quality drops, you know?
Yeah, for sure. Like I said, with that issue,
Yeah.
with those issues being apparent, it's definitely, I think it's probably going to be a thing where, you know, it's, where it's probably not going to be the best, you know, at launch necessarily. And of course, like I said, Nintendo is of course late to the game anyway in terms of allowing gamers to try out with its console. But nonetheless, it is definitely very nice to have. And like I said, I definitely think I'm going to take advantage of it a lot. I mean, like Toady was saying, with a game like Mario Party in particular, having that camera feature and being able to see everybody else's reactions when you're doing like the mini games and with the board event and stuff, that's probably going to be very, very chaotic and incredibly hilarious and fun at the same time. You know, I can definitely imagine myself having some dumb fun with that.
And this is coming from someone who is camera shy.
Yeah.
I know I'm camera shy too, so I'm not sure if I would, like, I'm not sure if I would consider doing it, well, even if I were to consider, but like I said, I'm camera shy anyway, but, I don't know, it's pretty cool though that some games will use that kind of feature.
Yeah, and like I said, I can definitely at least seeing it make for some pretty amusing gaming moments too, especially if especially if you're capturing it and stuff. But either way, like I said, you know, I might play with that just a little bit to see, you know, how it works and all that stuff, because I imagine honestly, like I said, despite how corny it is, it can also be really fun too. And like Toady was saying, in terms of like the ability to actually like for everyone to share their screens and all that stuff, that is definitely really nice to see as well. And definitely something I wish Nintendo obviously would have done a long time ago, but it's good that we're finally getting it now. And
let the record show that anytime something like this is implemented on other consoles, Nintendo has always been like significantly late. And by the time they finally do implement it, all their competitors have moved on to something else. Like,
well, we all know what Nintendo, how they are behind on the times, where the last time they were, you know, at least more powerful, or if not that on par with the Nintendo GameCube. And that was way back in 2001.
Yep.
yeah, it looks like this.
Yeah.
Okay, we finally got this cool new feature. Where is everybody? They moved on to what's newer than this, but you're late, like usual.
Yep, that is sad but true. But that's also kind of the reality of you know, being a Nintendo fan in particular, is that, you know, you kind of have to accept the fact, at least at times, that, you know, if a trend catches on in the gaming world, Nintendo was probably not going to implement it until like very, very late in the game, when people are already moving on to other cool new innovations.
And their saving grace and quality with it is the fact that they do have games and titles and franchises unique to their system. So, I mean, at least there's been proven track record showing, hey, like, it's not always about, like, the highest HD, pristine 4K quality. That's always been the main, like, important matter at heart here. But it's just the spirit of the games themselves. So, they do, like I said, that it does show, you know, Even though despite coming behind, we still been admiring the franchises nonetheless.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure, because, it really doesn't matter on how good the game looks or how bad the game looks. All that matters is the gameplay and the spirit. So, because really, gameplay matters to me the most in any game.
Yep. I mean, I think pretty much most people I'd imagine would feel the same way, but like I said, it is cool that we are getting that functionality. I'm not really sure what to make of their claims, of course, that the mic quality is going to be like this super great and crystal clear thing. Especially because we know Nintendo is kind of known to be exaggerated when it comes to that kind of thing. And imagine that it probably actually is going to be pretty bad at failing to not pick up background noise and all that stuff. So, like I said, not really sure if I'm trusting them on that claim yet. But either way, like I said, it is pretty cool that you can just talk to it in that way. But overall, I definitely do think I probably will mostly still stick with Discord, except for probably just like a few rare occasions, including of course when I first get the console and kind of just want to test it out and stuff. I might just do like one or two rounds of Mario, that sort of thing. So Mark, or anybody else here, get ready for that. No plug intended.
Testing the cringe before you go live with it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I just feel from just from seeing the direct and the whole game chat stuff, I feel like it's interesting how they have that kind of feature for the Switch 2 where people are going to be able to use divide camera for the Switch 2, which, hey, I mean, it looks pretty cool and interesting. But I don't think, for me personally, I'm going to buy one as someone who can be a bit of a camera shy sort of thing on the screen or playing a game, as I feel like I'm going to be sticking to the Discord chat and the call, for me at least.
Yeah, because like I said, I'm doing the same thing as well, for the most part anyway, so I agree.
I ain't no shame to anyone. I mean, even for myself, I'm a VTuber for a reason.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's kind of what I prefer to use as well. Plus, I already have a webcam for my computer, so that's kind of really all I need anyway.
Yep, and I'll be perfectly honest. When I first saw the whole game chat thing, as they were first showing what the C button did and stuff, I actually thought it was Nintendo specifically integrating Discord into the system because the interface and all that stuff, even the borders are around everybody, it definitely is very similar to how Discord looks. So Nintendo even kind of threw me for a loop there for a second before they announced what it's actually going to be called and stuff.
Well, that's what they tend to do. They like to tease, make you think it's one thing, and then it actually ends up being something else.
Yeah, pretty much. That is the Nintendo way. But still, like I said, and I know I'm kind of repeating myself here, but even though, like I said, it's late to the game, and even though, like I said, I won't be probably using it that much compared to just, Discord and stuff, it is at least nice to have, for sure. I definitely can't deny that. It is nice to at least finally have it. And who knows, the kind of things we'll see it get used out of over the years.
Yeah, it should be interesting, and I feel like it's a lot of money, which is $50 or something like that, which I'm interesting, but I don't think it's for me, honestly. But again, I feel like it'll be cool for those that want to have the kind of camera to show their face on the screen, for those that are brave enough to do it, and also just having a bunch of people in the same call together and watch their gameplays as well, which I think would be really fun to see that.
Yep, and and like I said, we'll see where it goes with it, but generally I'm pretty excited. But in general, I think that's pretty much all I got to say about game chat in particular. And like I said, we'll see what happens with it, but it is nice to have. The second thing I do actually want to talk about is kind of some of the hardware about the Switch 2, and the resolutions, because I definitely will admit, this is definitely probably like one of the very few areas of the Switch 2 Direct where Nintendo actually kind of caught me by surprise in like a genuinely like really good way, because I definitely will say in general that like a lot of the hardware we're seeing, the resolution and stuff, and the frame rate, it definitely is a lot higher than I was expecting, and I'm definitely glad about that. The fact that we're getting 120 FPS in some instances, and the fact that the console actually is 4K capable generally, I think generally is really good news, and I definitely am glad Nintendo is at least finally trying to at least somewhat give us a fairly decent hardware for their console.
Oh, yeah, for sure. Basically, from what I saw in the trailer, on the direct here in this case, where basically you can set your own resolution and stuff like that. So, so that is pretty cool, and I kind of look using it, just to see the differences of the quality and the resolution and frame rate and stuff like that. So, yeah, I am glad that they implemented such a feature.
Yep, for sure. And definitely for sure, I can even tell just from having watched the gameplay footage, and even just like like some of the lighting effects and all that stuff, that the Switch 2 clearly definitely is leaps and bounds about the Switch 1 in a lot of ways. I mean, like a lot of the small details look a lot nicer. I definitely think a lot of the lighting, is definitely a huge improvement. It definitely is a pretty huge, powerful beast compared to the original. And like I said, that definitely is nice to see coming from somebody who, of course, coming from, of course, a company that is not really known, of course, for obviously having the most powerful specs out there.
Yeah, because they stopped being about the power since the Wii originally first came out. Since, as I said from before, earlier, it seems that the last time Nintendo actually cared about power, raw power, was the GameCube. Because then afterwards, the original Wii came out, and that was when pretty much all the other Nintendo systems from there were just underperformed in terms of, power-wise. So, yeah, there's that, and so there's that for you guys. However, that's not to say it's bad or anything like that. But because as we said from before, the gameplay is what matters. But it is nice either way that I don't know that like I said from earlier about the resolution stuff, like I said from earlier, because like what Nick was saying from earlier, at least it's just trying to somewhat fix that kind of thing, I guess you could say.
Yeah, and even the fact that a lot of genuinely great third-party games, they're kind of like older third-party games are coming to the Switch too, like like Elden Ring, and all that good stuff. Even the fact that that's happening, I definitely think is a major step in the right direction to see for sure for Nintendo. Not that I necessarily care about that personally, because generally I don't really. I know this is going to be kind of a somewhat controversial statement for me, but I don't necessarily buy a lot of Nintendo consoles, of course, for the third-party content. I mostly get it, of course, for the unique stuff Nintendo offers. But even still, I can't deny that it definitely is a very good thing that the Switch 2 is powerful enough, and of course that third-party developers are clearly motivated by enough to actually bring a lot of their IPs to it for sure. It is nice to see.
Yeah. Yeah, I gotta be honest. I mean, they're kind of doing what they did with like the Wii U approach whenever it was being like prepped for launch as well. Because it's like, hey, look, third-party support, yay! Because I knew that was something back at the time that was a relatively hot topic as far as trying to shed some light on Nintendo bringing in like additional support from other developers and whatnot. Because they were. They wanted to at least have more inclusion with that so that others would feel more welcome to joining with what they had up their sleeve.
Mm-hmm.
And, when it comes to the specs of the Switch 2 that was revealed, I was like, holy schmoly, this is quite a jump. Because I wasn't quite expecting, 4K, whenever it was docked, that honestly astounded me.
It's definitely a big jump over Switch 1, that's for sure.
Yeah.
I was very impressed with what they were doing.
because I heard them saying the direct 120 frames per second. I'm like, I'm sorry, what?
I know.
Yeah, I don't know how anyone can react to things that are going on like 120 frames per second. I mean, if you really like that kind of stuff, good for them, but I'll stick to 60 frames per second, thank you.
I mean, it's not like a necessity, I guess, for lack of a better word, but it is still nice to see it, no doubt.
It depends on what your TV has to offer.
Like, I'm not
Yeah,
gonna.
I mean, it just depends on what you own as far as what it can offer to output in that quality or not. But it's still nice that it has that capacity to offer that for individuals, because I mean, more and more folks are getting 4K supported TVs at least, so still awesome.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Like, obviously, if the console didn't have 120 FPS, I definitely wouldn't be, unable to sleep at night or anything like that. But it is still definitely great that it's there for sure.
There's only one little downfall I kind of saw to that, with them having quite a jump in specs. It is causing a lot more battery usage, so it's going to be quite a battery hog to support all that, even in handheld.
Yeah.
It's handheld since it's connected to power, but...
I heard something about how the Switch 2's battery life is going to be like 2 hours or 6 hours long, depending on the, software you're playing in, but 2 hours is pretty bad. I won't lie, that's just as bad, if not worse, than the Wii U Game Pass battery life, I'm being honest here.
Yeah, for sure. And I definitely do, definitely do agree that it is an unfortunate downside to the big jump in power. And like I said, one of just, of course, many of the several unfortunate downsides about the Switch 2, which of course we'll get into a bit later, that we found out that, of course, the fact that the battery life is actually worse compared to the Switch 1, which definitely is, not a good thing to hear about. But it also is just an unfortunate reality of kind of, I guess you could say, an unfortunate consequence of Nintendo packing in that much power to begin with.
It's just so crazy how, like, if I'm hearing that way of, like, the Switch of being, like, in 4K, I think, and it's just really crazy how it had, like, a massive jump from there. And it also is cool how the Switch 2 has improved on the Joy-Cons of it being, like, a magnet, and also more of a comfortable holding it compared to the Switch 1, where the Switch 1's controls were more smaller, which it made it hard for certain people are not capable of holding it for that long. And I'm glad that the Switch 2 is trying to improve on the Joy-Cons.
Oh yeah, for sure. Definitely one thing that I definitely have noticed that definitely seems to be way better, even if I can't, 100% confirm without, of course, having held the controller for a certain amount of time, is, of course, the thumbsticks. I definitely will say that the Switch 2 thumbsticks, even on just the Joy-Cons, definitely do seem to be a hell of a lot better than the Switch 1, which thank God for that.
Oh, jeez, yes.
I was just hoping that, I'm just getting ready to say that I'm just hoping that that those particular Joy-Cons, or whatever it is that they call them, I'm just hoping that they don't get Joy-Con dripped as easily as compared to the Switch 1 Joy-Cons. I mean, that's what I'm really hoping anyway.
Yeah, well...
I'm going to tell, but they're supposed to not.
Yeah, judging by the fact that it seems like they're Holo Effect joysticks, at least, from what we've seen out of them, it definitely does seem like that issue will pretty much be gone, or at least, like, severely alleviated. Because, yeah, that was definitely a big problem, of course, with the Switch 1, was the fact that, of course, the Joy-Con thumbsticks were just severely prone to drift, and it broke a lot of controllers. I mean, pretty much all of my Joy-Con 1 controllers, which we'll have to start calling them that now, pretty much all of mine are broke because of that stupid drift issue, unfortunately. But yeah, overall, like I said, I definitely am impressed, of course, by the hardware and the specs of the Switch 2. I'm not going to claim it's, sit here and claim that it's like revolutionary or anything like that, but it is still definitely a huge, massive step up from the Switch 1, and for that is definitely a very good thing, and I am definitely glad to see that Nintendo actually is taking a bit of a gamble in that regard.
A big win for sure.
Yeah.
Yep. But yes, something else they definitely went into a good amount of detail in for the Direct as well in terms of like, stuff that's coming to the Switch 2 this year are of course, remakes slash remasters of, or I guess more, I should appropriately say, upgraded versions of Switch 1 games. And I definitely will say that, outside of the way they're kind of handling at least a couple of these, I definitely am still very excited about them for sure. Definitely getting, bigger, better versions of games like, obviously the Zelda games on the Nintendo Switch 1, even though I'm not much of a Zelda person. Mario Party Jamboree, obviously. Kirby the Forgotten Land, which of course was honestly by far one of my favorite platforms on the console. My God, that is definitely amazing for sure. I definitely will say that these remasters that and the stuff they're adding to them definitely does look really cool for the most part. And I definitely am glad to see Nintendo is that kind of making that step. Obviously I definitely do kind of wish that they wouldn't be obviously charging people who already own the games for these upgrades. I definitely do think that is kind of at least a little bit scummy. But it is still nice nonetheless to see for sure.
Oh yeah, especially because in Kirby the Forgotten Land, in that game's case, not only am I gonna be able to play that game all over again. Yeah, I don't know all over again, but just again in general, but it's 60 frames per second instead of 3 frames per second. Of course, there's gonna be brand new story content, and really looking forward to that. And as someone who has become a Kirby fan ever since last year due to that particular game, I can really wait to check out that version of the game, including the 60 frames per second, because as good as Kirby Forgotten Land, game, like as good as that game is. As good as that game is, the only thing I didn't really like about that game, is having a 100% completion process, was the fact that the game ran at 30 frames per second. But now, with the remaster version, I guess you could say, yeah, we just have finally play the game in the proper way, 60 frames per second.
Yep, for sure. And like I said, as someone who does love, Kirby and Mario Party Jamboree, those are definitely the two upgrades I'm most excited about, to be sure.
Same here.
Yeah, for sure. Thing.
Well, I honestly didn't really care too much about the Super Mario Party Jamboree remaster, I guess you could say. I didn't really care for that too much, because it just seemed like, obviously, using like the camera features already established from earlier. But either way, it is still nice that we are getting Switch 1 remasters of the games. It's just, but it's like what Nick said from earlier here not that long ago. Not that long ago, is that it is pretty scummy how people, especially for people that has already gotten those Switch 1 versions of the game, they have to pay extra. Sure, they're getting a discount, I guess you could say, but it is still pretty scummy. Like, if anything, what they should have done is have it to where for people that already has the game, the Switch 1 version of the game, they can get it for free or something like that for people that already has owned it. Don't force people into buying it. I mean, granted, sure, again, it's at a discount. So for all we know, the Switch 1 version of the game for people that already owns the game could be like, say, $30, something like that. But it's still pretty scummy, like what Nick said.
Yeah, for sure. And, I do kind of realize, and I got to feel this is probably going to come in the comment section, so I will go ahead and quickly address it right now. I know there probably are going to be some people that point out that, that's kind of becoming the industry standard now to do that sort of thing. And it's like, yeah, I get that. But even still, it's like, it doesn't change the fact that there's unfortunately just a really scummy thing to do. And in all honesty, I do kind of wish they would be trying to handle this a little bit differently, because, as awesome as these games are, it definitely is, kind of a bit of a slap in the face to make people who already own these games, charge a certain price, obviously, just to get a fully upgraded version of them. It might not be a terrible price necessarily, but it's still not a good thing.
It's pretty much the classic Nintendo method of trying to milk some of these games for more money than when they've already made like millions of dollars on these titles when they originally released on the Switch 1. In fact, look at how long they milked Mario Kart 8 for before finally giving us a brand new game to launch on the new system in a couple of months.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah, for sure. It's like the Grand Theft Auto 5 situation all over again.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah, for sure. But like I said, I definitely do wish they wouldn't be charging for those upgrades.
From what I understand, though, the upgrade packs for some of these Switch 2 Edition games are actually free if you're an NSO member.
Yeah, I did hear that that's the case.
As well.
That's the case, at least I think for the Zelda games, from what I understand. But like I said, I do wish it was, the case for basically all of them.
I think it was dependent on like if there was additional content that was offered through the Switch 2 version of the game.
Yeah.
I think that was my understanding of it.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, we're like, well, I still think it is pretty stupid how you need to have a Nintendo Switch Online membership, just to have that for free. Like what Mark was saying earlier. But whatever, it's classic Nintendo. What are you gonna do?
Yep.
Well, they did because they knew people had it.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, hell, I will too, so I know that even what everything I'm saying here is not going to matter to Nintendo. But either way, like I said, in terms of the upgrades themselves, getting away, of course, from, how I feel about the whole pricing situation, it is still definitely great to see them come out nonetheless. And, even though the whole Jamboree TV stuff does look cheesy, I definitely will be excited to try it out. Plus, from what I've heard, and, obviously, this might not be 100% confirmed yet, so of course, if this ends up changing, of course somebody can let me know. But from what I have heard and seen, they might supposedly be adding like a little bit of a team battle thing to the game too with this new edition. If that's the case, that'll be awesome.
Yeah, which would technically, in this case, make this some sort of DLC for Jamboree, which and that's something the Mario Party series has never had before.
Oh yeah.
I apologize. Could you repeat what you said that they're adding again?
Sorry, I was.
They're possibly adding.
Oh yeah, I heard that there was. Looks like they're apparently going to be adding like some kind of like team battle thing. Like kind of similar to like how.
Okay, yeah.
Like partner.
Oh, okay.
Like the whole partner thing works in Super Mario Party, or even like like the 2v2 style matches you saw like some of the older Mario Party games. Like that is potentially content they could be adding to the game, which is nice.
Yeah, no, as far as I understand, too, just to kind of also add more to that, I don't know if they necessarily unveiled everything that they had planned for it, because there was more emphasis, I thought, with the Direct placed on the Switch, too, like the console and the launch itself, than just, like, showcasing more stuff dissected about each individual game. Because, like, I mean, as far as we even heard, like, Mario Kart World's getting its own Direct here later in April, as a matter of fact, on the 17th, so...
Yep, so there's still more stuff to learn about that game.
Well, I'm just going to say, in regards to the DLC thing, for Super Mario Party Jamboree, I would have rather preferred to, have more boards. Maybe, like, I don't know, Pirate Land or something, from Mario Party 2 as an example. But I'm not going to complain too much here. It is still nice that we are getting Switch 1 remasters in a way, enhanced, and some games, like Come&PartywithNick is already established, having new story content, so it is still nice all the same.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, and I understand that. I do understand that, Dominic, and they actually might. It's, I feel like we don't know quite fully enough yet to know if that for sure or not, if they're gonna do new boards or just fully pass up on it, but hey, we can hope and pray.
Yeah, for sure.
But I'd love to see it too.
Obviously, it's Nintendo we're talking about, so, I've kind of learned over the years to kind of temper my expectations with them, but you never know what they can do for sure. But anyway, I think I've pretty much said everything I wanted to say about that. It is definitely nice that they're doing it nonetheless, and I'm definitely glad it actually is, like, real remasters, and they're actually, like, adding, adding stuff to the game that is not, and it's not just, straight up port or whatever, at least in most of these cases.
Yeah, even Kirby in the Forgotten Land with the added story, that has me excited, honestly. That game's been creeping up as being one of my favorite Kirby games after I've been replaying it.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, that is my favorite Kirby game for sure.
Oh.
So.
Oh yeah, for sure. And especially as somebody who loves Crypt of Godland so much, I was definitely very happy about that for sure. That is honestly just a really damn good game. If you couldn't tell by the fact that I let's played it, shameless plug, I know. But anyway, as far as some other stuff to talk about, this is definitely something I was actually really excited about when it was first announced because, this was literally my very first game console and it's finally coming onto the Switch 2 via the Switch Online service. And of course, that's going to be, of course, GameCube games on Switch. Even though, of course, the starting lineup does seem relatively small, it is still nonetheless very nice regardless. And the fact that they are adding a lot of great games GameCube games to the console over time, that definitely is very welcome to see. I'm definitely going to be very happy to play these GameCube games on the Switch too.
Yeah, and
Oh, yeah, for sure.
yeah, some of the ones that look like are going to be added, like Pokemon Coliseum, Pokemon XD, those games, the respective GameCube copies of those two games alone are ridiculously expensive. But then again, that's just because those are Pokemon games, and Pokemon games are always expensive.
Well,
Oh, sorry.
Well, I was just trying to say, one of the games that will be added in terms of at a later time, if you think that is bad, Mark, with Fire Emblem Path of Radiance, it's going to be added there.
That's what I was also adding.
I know none of you guys are into this Fire Emblem series, but it's just the funny thing is, the reason why I find that so funny is because I paid $300 for my original copy, used, generic case and all that. But I didn't really care because I didn't care because it was the game which played pretty well. But yes, with Fire Emblem Path of Radiance aside, I do know one of the games that will be there on launch will be Zelda the Wind Waker, and the reason why I am so pumped up for it is because it's a dream come true for me, because one, not only is it my favorite Zelda game of all time, but also the fact that it will finally give me a chance to play that game with VideoGameFan96, because I know VideoGameFan96 here, AKA Daniel, so those who don't know, on Nick's channel, he's gonna run that game with me in a way, somewhat. So the fact that they're adding that kind of game at launch is pretty surprising, and I do know whenever VideoGameFan99 gets the Switch 2, that's literally the first game. VideoGameFan99 will be playing on the GameCube app for sure, because what can I say? I love Wind Waker. I love Zelda Wind Waker. What can I say? It's just a matter of time. Whenever I get the Switch 2, and same applies to VideoGameFan99 as well.
Yeah, and then and Chibi Robo, I think, is also supposed to be
it is.
And that's actually a game that I have never played before.
Oh, just enjoy it. It's a fun, quirky game.
And it's a good thing that they are giving us Chibi Robo at a later date or whatever, because, last remember checking, Chibi Robo is quite possibly the most expensive GameCube game of all time, or if not that, one of the most expensive GameCube games of all time, because I really already hearing something about Chibi Robo didn't sell well. Everybody else has heard. Either way, it is still nice, I'll be able to finally be able to play it, for the first time.
Yeah, for sure. And the fact that, like I said, they're also later on bringing games like Sunshine and Luigi's Mansion to it. Definitely as somebody who really loves Sunshine, especially, I am all for that. And, even just imagine all the multiplayer possibilities we could have in the future with certain GameCube games coming to Nintendo Switch Online, such as, of course, the Mario Party games. I mean, my God, at least bring Mario Party 4 for 6, and, even potentially some other examples, too. It's... There definitely is a lot of hype to be had with that for sure, and like I said, it definitely is nice to see the GameCube finally get some love.
It is my favorite Nintendo console of all time. And not only that, it is my favorite video game console of all time. It is my favorite video game console of all time in general. So yeah, I'm happy that they're adding it into the Switch too.
Hey, mine as well.
Even though they didn't show this on the GameCube app under list of titles to come later, I'm pretty sure that Double Dash is going to get added onto there at some point.
Oh yeah.
Why wouldn't it? Sure.
Yeah, that game. Yeah, they'll definitely add Double Dash. I mean, I think it's kind of a necessity. And honestly, who knows? There might be some other clauses to get added too.
And prior to Mario Kart 8, Double Dash, side note, was a Mario Kart game.
I mean, I'm always third party and all, but like, for example, on some GameCube games, I like to see them being added to the GameCube on my application, like the Sonic games, specifically Sonic Riders, the original one, Sonic Adventure DX, and of course, the fan favorite, even though it's not my favorite Sonic games of all time, but I understand people's opinions on it, is Sonic Adventure 2 Battle. Those are the games I would like to see being added, but again, I know it's third party, so obviously Nintendo's ask Sega first and all that good stuff, but hey, those are the Sonic games I'd like to see be added in the future.
Oh yeah. And even like as somebody who loves Super Monkey Ball like 1 and 2, the ability to play those games again on the Switch 2 GameCube Online app, they come would definitely be great as well.
But GameCube being unveiled was probably one of my biggest highlights of the Switch 2 Direct. Even though it's like we're talking about retro, it's like, oh man, like you have no idea. This was just so long overdue that they needed to have GameCube available to people in general, because there are a lot of people who have been begging for it, but also it's more so because there's some I know who haven't even experienced GameCube and wanted to try it, and it's for today's times, it's mostly unreasonable to try to get a lot of those games used because of how terrible the used market is with the scalped prices and people not letting go of their childhood. So this was really exciting to see. And also, Dominic, I know you were saying earlier about Chibi Robo being expensive. It is. I'm not dismissing that whatsoever, because it's very expensive used. But Fire Emblem Path of Radiance is like way worse. We're talking $500+ today.
Yeah.
Well, it's a good thing. It's a good thing I paid $300 for my copy, not $500. Sure, it's so expensive, but hey,
my soul aches for you for that. So I am sorry that it came to that.
Oh my God! Well, what can I say? What can I say? You know, I'm a big Fire Emblem fan, and if it wasn't for the Fire Emblem Houses back in 2019. Back when the anniversary release, I would have been a Fire Emblem fan, and then I waited a couple years later, and then I finally just caved in, and I'm like, okay, fine, I'll get Path of Radiance, fine. So yeah, there's that.
I know. I just meant the price, though. That's what I meant when I said my soul aches.
Yeah, I know.
Because I'm actually one of the I feel fortunate folks who have the game since it was back like when GameCube was the new console at the time, so I've kind of clutched onto my copy for all these years.
I never realized how lucky I was until like even a few years ago to have gotten Radiant Dawn not too long after it came out, because I never realized how valuable and how expensive that game would become. Honestly, I wish I
had no idea at the time. I just got the games because I was intrigued by the series, and I was like, looking back, I'm like, thank God I have them now.
Yeah. And,
yeah, good thing. Yeah.
And yes, for those picky people out there that want to nitpick everything, yes, I'm aware that's a Wii game. But either way, the point still stands that, of course, both Radiant Dawn and Path of Radiance and all the others, and all those other Fire Emblem games, getting as rare as they are, it definitely is unfortunate. But I also feel lucky to have gotten at least one of them while they were still new at the time.
Yeah, I think honestly, it's just so cool to see how the GameCube is coming to the Switch too. I'm really excited to see what games are going to be bringing to that Switch too. And so, like, I love Mario Party 47, along with Sky Riders, and it'd be really cool to see Smash Bros. Melee made it to the Switch as well, which I'm pretty sure it has a likely chance to make it too.
Oh yeah.
But honestly, it's really exciting, and I might consider buying that GameCube NSL, but I'm not sure yet, so it's possible.
Yeah, we'll see. But either way, I'm definitely looking forward to that. Hopefully, they also bring Sonic Heroes as well. And by the way, Toady, on a side note, if they bring the GameCube Mario parties, me and you gotta face each other in Mario Party 5 and 6. It's gotta happen. It's gotta happen.
I'll be there with you for that.
Sure. And I'll be sure to play the Mario Party games with all of you, including the Infinite and several others. Because as much as I complain about the RNG and about how I get bad luck and everything like that, I do prefer Mario Party over Mario Kart. So yeah, despite me complaining about RNG stuff like constantly, I mean, look at the weekend gamers by marking out already. I would still say that I still love Mario Party all the same, and it's why what I'm trying to say here is, I would certainly be willing to play the Mario Party GameCube games, assuming that they decide to add them on to the GameCube application later on, for the lulls and for the RNG-ness and everything else.
Yeah, for sure. And like I said, we can only hope it does happen one day. Judging by, of course, how long it took them to get the Mario Party Institute 4 games on there. It might not be for a couple of years or so, but it's definitely would still be nice, and there is a good chance it could happen. Jeez, I feel like I can't talk in this video. But either way, it will be nice for sure.
Mm-hmm.
And
it's no wonder, Nick, because I mean, you just hear GameCube, you're like, oh my god, I can't believe it's happening.
Yeah, good point, Tony. Good point.
I am super psyched over it, so I'd be speechless too.
Yeah. But either way, like I said, it definitely is a very welcome announcement. And honestly, as I guess for lack of a better word, maybe like weird as it might be to say for at least like some people out there, that actually was like one of my personal favorite announcements of that direct, was just knowing that was finally happening. Because like I said, GameCube literally is my childhood. I mean, it was my very first game console. I got introduced to so many game franchises through it, and so I definitely did feel like a piece of my childhood was coming back with that announcement.
And I'm happy for those who never got to experience it and see what all the fuss and hype is about with why I rave about it.
Yeah, exactly. But all right, getting on to something else, because honestly, I could go on and on about GameCube stuff coming and the kind of games like this come to Switch 2 all day, because like I said, makes me so excited that. But obviously there is still other stuff to discuss, so I will try to move on now. But the bottom line is that I'm very excited for it. But of course now let's actually talk about some of the new games that have been revealed for it, and of course we do at least have three really big new first party games coming out that we know about. I will go and start with at least two of them right now, because obviously one of them I got to do a whole topic on by itself. But two of them I reviewed are, of course, Donkey Kong Bonanza, which, oh my god, that game looked so freaking fun. Like, even for as bummed as I personally was that we didn't hear at least yet about a new 3D Mario game, that honestly more than made up for me, was just seeing that DK game. And of course, aside from that, we also got Kirby Air Raiders, which is like, thank God, we are finally getting a sequel to Kirby Air Raiders after God knows how long, and that is just awesome to see. I definitely will be really excited for both of those games a lot.
And especially considering that Sakurai himself, may I add, is directing the game. And in fact, the last time Sakurai directed a Kirby game was back in Kirby Air, the original one. So the fact that we have Sakurai himself, who basically directs the Smash Bros. Games as well, and he was directing Kirby Air Riders, and back then, not only back then, but back when when it was live, and I saw the thing called Kirby Air Riders, I'm like, well, what is the Sonic Riders? But yeah, seeing that jokingly at the time, And yeah, it looks so much fun, and especially with how there's like a motorcycle source. So basically, if I look at the trailer, is you'll be able to ride on more stuff besides rope stars. Another thing is I am hoping that they do have more playable characters besides Kirby. Maybe like I don't know, Adeline from Kirby 64, King Dedede, all of them good characters.
Well, yeah, some of that actually was brought in from the first original Kirby era. On that note, King Dedede and Meta Knight were playable on the original for the GameCube.
I wouldn't have known since I've never played the original, but yeah.
Yeah, they were unlockable characters, but that is something that I too hope, that they'll kind of expand the roster to, not just the air machines themselves. But Nick, I have to be honest with you, you and I just have the same synergy with that, because I that was like one of the most hype announcements for the new games, and it's just like. I'm happy to hear that there's others out there who are also just as hype, because I know Kirby Air Ride has been kind of viewed as like a niche game by some other like-minded Nintendo fans, because it was kind of a title where you either loved it or you didn't.
Oh yeah, for sure.
I was just so excited to see it to be brought back to life with the sequel coming out.
Yeah, for sure. And honestly, I love the original Kirby era myself, and I never really expected that we would ever get a sequel to that game. But the fact that we actually are getting one now is just fucking amazing, to put it lightly. I mean, honestly, the very fact that they're actually going through with that, it's just so awesome. And I definitely going to be playing a ton of that game. Evidently Nintendo really wants us to race in the first few months of the Switch 2, no pun intended, and it's gonna be a lot of fun to do so.
In regards to Donkey Kong Bonanza, even though it is a shame we aren't getting a Donkey Kong Country, like another one, but it all made up for it with Donkey Kong Bonanza, like what Nick was saying from earlier. I mean, it does look a lot of fun, there's, Donkey Kong is in a 3D space, and it does look really fun. The only thing that I really like about it is similar to Mario Kart World, so the only thing that bugs me is Donkey Kong's character model. Like, don't get me wrong, Donkey Kong looks cute and adorable, all that good stuff, but it's just his character model looks too similar to Donkey Kong Jr., if I'm being honest here. I know, it seems kind of like I know it seems a little bit petty, but I don't know, it's just, Donkey Kong's character model, like I said, looks too similar to Donkey Kong Jr., and I'm at the very least hoping the best I can to, get used to his, design.
I know Lord Clump would probably agree with you on that one. Shout out to him, by the way. But
I'll be honest, I mean, it is a fusion between, like, you can tell just by the looks, like, Junior and just current DK kind of looks like a fusion of the two, but it's also, I think a lot of it also just kind of, like, alluded with what the movie Donkey Kong looked like as well, but, I mean, I thought he was nice and fluffy. It was just a different change for me, and I found it amusing. But I understand if it's not like everyone else's favorite persona of him, so I get that.
I'm just gonna go out on a limb here and say that I fucking love the new Donkey Kong a lot. Like, yeah, he definitely looks a lot different, and obviously, it may be kind of a quite a departure from how we've been used to seeing him look for the past, I guess, 20 years or so. But honestly, I love his new design a lot. I love how cartoony he is. I love how expressive he gets in a lot of the times, and even just how unhinged he can kind of look, like when he's especially getting into action in DK Bonanza. Honestly, I love the new design a lot, and in all honesty, I think it's a perfect fit for him.
Mm-hmm.
I think especially the DK Bonanza, it's going to be a lot of fun using DK with him looking like that. And like I said, just haven't watched gameplay footage of that game, and just seeing just how awesome it looks, it really honestly got to the point where even though I was kind of bummed, at least at first, that we didn't get a new 3D Mario game, by the end of the trailer, I'd almost forgotten about that fact, because DK Bonanza honestly does look amazing. Like, I'm not kidding when I said that game could be a serious contender, he was out of the gate for already being one of the best the potentially best Nintendo Switch 2 games.
Yeah, so awesome to see how DK has a new design for the Switch 2, and I like how he is so cute and like adorable, but also expressive, as you were saying, Nick. Just shows that DK2 can also be expressive, even in his new game. Like, I'm sure it's gonna be really exciting for lots of people, even DK fans as well. That DK is getting a new game and this year, and it's coming out so soon, which is so crazy to like see that. And I'm sure it's gonna be lots of fun for those that are gonna like have the game and enjoy it.
Yeah, and in all honesty, it's been way too long since we've had a proper new 3D Donkey Kong game anyway, so the fact that we are finally getting one is just amazing.
Yeah, because I believe the last 3D Donkey Kong game, I believe, was Donkey Kong 64. Correct me if I'm wrong on that though, guys, but while I do have nostalgia for Donkey Kong 64, I will admit, it more likely doesn't, like, that game more likely didn't age all that well, but yeah, last time I remember, anyways, because of being a little bit sidetracked here, is so the fact that, well, like I said, it's a single fact. Donkey Kong 64 is the last 3D Donkey Kong game. It is nice though that we are finally getting a 3D Donkey Kong game ever since 1999 or whatever.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
And I do agree that at least, visually, DK64, much like most other N64 games, unfortunately hasn't really aged that gracefully. That's not really the fault of the game necessarily. That's more so just the fault of course, just the fact that the N64 kind of used like a very early primitive form of the 3D graphics we're kind of used to today, and so it just looks kind of rough today compared to a lot of other systems at its time. But even still, I mean, it was still a great game. But DK Bonanza looks like it's gonna be, honestly, like I said, like one of the best. Honestly, probably like one of the best Nintendo games of all time, and it really is just great how vast and expansive the world is in that game from what I've seen of the gameplay. But yeah, definitely for sure. With Kirby Air Riders and DK Bonanza, definitely looking forward to those games a lot. I probably will. I shouldn't even say probably. I think I definitely will be getting those games at some point whenever I get my Switch 2, which, spoiler alert, definitely will not be at launch. I know Mark will probably get it at launch. I'm sure. I think Armon told me he will too. But for me, I'm personally going to be waiting a few months. But either way, whenever I do get my Switch 2, those games definitely will be sellers for me.
For sure. What's crazy is that I was not expecting Kirby Air Riders at all. Like, that was, like, just hearing him announcing that, I was just shocked because I don't think anybody was
I agree with Mark. I don't think a single person honestly anticipated Kirby Air Riders to be an announcement, but it definitely was a pleasantly surprising one.
Yeah, I grew up playing Kirby Air Rides. Growing up, as it was my first Kirby game ever on GameCube.
No way! It was mine too.
Really? Oh my god.
Yeah, it was. Well, that was partially just because, like I said, the GameCube.
That's so crazy.
Yeah, well, it was partially just because, like I said.
With Kirby's Adventure being my original.
Yeah.
My first.
I think my first Kirby game might have been either Kirby's Adventure on the Wii Virtual Console or Kirby Triple Deluxe on the 3DS. I know it was either one.
That's cool.
Mine was on the original Nintendo.
Yeah, but but of course, like I said, my first console was the GameCube, so it made sense, obviously, that Kirby Air Riders would have been my first Air Riders. Why would I play it in 2003? Like, Kirby Air Riders would be my first Kirby game, but it was still great to play nonetheless. But yeah, like I said, both games definitely do look amazing for sure, and it definitely is nice to see that Nintendo really does want to start this generation out with a bang.
Yeah, for sure. So cool.
Yeah, but now
it's crazy how it's our first games.
Yeah, but now of course I want to talk about, of course, the big game that was revealed, and of course the game that we've known about at least since January when the Switch 2 was first revealed, and that is, of course, what we can now safely call Mario Kart World. And oh my God, I will say that game looks absolutely incredible. And after 10 plus years of Mario Kart 8 being the main Mario Kart game, I am so glad we're finally getting to move on.
Oh yeah, for sure. I really liked this one mode. Basically where it's like a knockout kind of deal where you have to get to a certain place or whatever, and if you don't go to the top or whatever, then you get eliminated. That just sounds so much fun. It kind of reminds me of like Sonic All-Stars Racing or whatever game I remember playing, where it's pretty much the same deal where you have to get to a certain top or whatever, and you get eliminated too. So really excited for that. I'm also kind of looking forward to it, even though I don't think I'm gonna play this particular mode all that much. But free tour, I guess you could say, where basically where you get to go anywhere you want, all that good stuff. I really enjoyed the trailer. I really enjoyed seeing the graphics and all that good stuff. The one thing I do hope though that they show off in the Mario Kart World Direct is like a proper story mode, because that would be really amazing. Or if they're not gonna do a story mode, at the very least put in mission mode or both, because the mission mode. That would be pretty amazing, because I remember loving that mode in Mario Kart DS, and that's the whole point as to why Mario Kart DS is my all-time favorite Mario Kart game, because of the mission mode alone.
Yeah, well, and obviously there's still going to be a direct on that game, I think a little over 10 days from now as of the time when I'm recording this podcast, so obviously there's still definitely a lot more I'm sure to find out about the game, but From what I have seen of it, though, it definitely does look massive and expansive, and I even like the gimmick of it it being like this open world thing. Like having an open world Mario Kart game is just such a cool idea.
Mm-hmm.
Now I know there have been at least.
I'm curious to see how the tracks are all going to be all interconnected too. That looks so cool.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
I noticed there have been at least a couple people that have I guess kind of commented, or I guess I should say like complained about like how like a lot of the tracks at least in Grand Primo kind of look like that you just get there by like driving to them, and even though I can kind of get that concern to a certain extent, I definitely do still think it'll nonetheless be a lot of fun even just to like explore a lot of these levels and to see like what they're like really made of and all that stuff. Obviously maybe I guess you could say like a little bit different from a traditional Mario Kart in that respect, but it is still kind of cool to see regardless.
Yeah, and April 17th is when the upcoming direct is on Mario Kart World more in depth, but so I actually have something funny to share about with watching the direct live, like whenever this aired on the 2nd. I was actually at work, so I didn't actually get to see like all of it in one setting, so I had to like try to catch what I could on my break. But I was afraid that there was like something wrong with my end of things, where apparently there was like audio desync that was going on with trying to watch it live.
Yeah, it wasn't just you.
Yeah, it turned out.
Basically, yeah, because I remember, I like how you say that, Tony, because I remember way back when it was live, and I forgot what game it was. They might have been showing the Sky, I don't remember. Either way, they were showing some game, and then like the audio desynced and it eventually froze. And at first I thought it was my internet, and I kept on going in and out of the video, and it was still doing the same thing until I went to the live chat, and that was when they were saying, "Oh, it froze." And thankfully it fixed itself, but like, good lord, like 1.7 million people watching or whatever it was. Like that's just insane. I never would have thought in a million years would a Nintendo Direct like that.
The hype was just too strong.
Yeah.
It's funny because I did think it was me at first, because I was trying to watch it on my phone while on a break, and I didn't get to catch all of it live, and yeah, it did actually freeze and stop at one point. But here I had asked a couple other friends who watched it, and Actually was another friend who was watching it being aired in another country, but with English subtitles, and I guess it was just more in the western part of the world where that was having an issue with the audio desync and then the freezing issues. So kind of a interesting tidbit. So, but I guess going back with Mario Kart World here, I guess we'll never know if it was originally going to be called 9 or 10. Since they now are not doing number conventions.
Yeah.
But it kind of reminded me a little bit of like Mario Kart Tour on steroids a little bit with it being open world now.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Except that Mario Kart World is going to be way better than Mario Kart Tour. That's going to be a fact.
Oh, it's going to be for sure. But yeah, it just that's why I said it on steroids essentially.
Yeah, sorry for the disgusting analogy, but honestly, Mario Kart World is literally going to take a shit all over Mario Kart Tour and poop it out.
Yes. Dominic, the knockout mode that you were talking about, it actually reminded me of like F-Zero's disqualifying mechanics as well. Like when you're falling behind too far and not like up in the upper pack. I think that's kind of what it reminded me of a nod to, was from F-Zero, because it has the same mechanic of those series as well.
That's not the rule after, but yeah, anyway. But yeah, all around, I am so looking forward to Mario Kart World. And the fact that it is releasing on launch day is also pretty insane. I mean, I kind of figured it was going to happen anyways, but the fact that they actually said it, I'm like, oh, that's cool, they're actually doing it on launch day.
Yeah, so that was also exciting for me too.
The knockout tour mode looks like it's going to be a lot of fun.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Yeah. I can see myself doing that with VideoGameFan96 just to see who gets eliminated last or whatever.
Oh yeah, I think I'm going to be spending a lot of time with that mode, and I'm sure pretty much everyone in here can has like the same sentiment. It's going to be just a ton of fun to go for that mode, just to see like how long it will last and stuff.
Last racer standing, yeah.
Yeah.
That's awesome fun.
And also, just gonna go ahead and toss this out here. There's literally not gonna be any reason to complain about the roster size at this point after what they showed. I mean, I saw I am so meaning that cow, the Moo Farms cow, absolutely.
Cows!
I never would have thought we would have had a cow as a playable character. It kind of reminds me of I haven't played the game, mind you, but it kind of reminds me of the Queen Bee or whatever her name is.
Honey Queen, yeah.
Super Mario Galaxy.
Yeah, the cow, having a cow alone as a playable character is just such a golden move. Like, I didn't even realize I wanted that in that game, or even in my life for that matter, but since it's actually going to be a thing, it's just like, wow, that is amazing.
And you know this is going to be a game where they're going to keep adding more and more to it through the console's life as well. Kind of like, how Mario Kart 8 had the DLC waves. Because I foresee that, going on with Mario Kart World as well, with how expansive it's going to be. It's almost going to be like the Smash of Mario Kart, essentially.
Yeah. Honestly, in a lot of ways, if you want to, if you get my gist, you can almost like even call it kind of like basically, Mario Kart Ultimate, because it really does seem like it's going to be like, like the big and main Mario Kart game for at least like a good 9 or 10 years.
Everyone is here.
Yeah.
Including the also just the costumes too. I love that they're adding that too, and even like Yoshi. From what they showed, there's even a Yoshi costume from Super Mario RPG, which I thought was really awesome.
Which makes you kind of wonder what Rosalina's alternative outfits are going to be in, like, Peach and Daisy's,
and all them. Dora might come back, I was wondering that myself.
Yeah, you never know.
I'm so excited.
The royal outfit for Rosalina, I'd love to see that come back.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Because that was just so gorgeous on her.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm so excited.
But yeah, either way, that game is definitely, I think, going to be like absolutely incredible, and that. It is definitely, like I said, an easy system seller for sure. Obviously, like I said, if not for some other things, it definitely would have almost maybe for sure get the console at launch. But either way, Mario Kart World, I think, definitely looks huge and expansive. I love the concept of it. Obviously, the fact that there's can be like up to 24 races on the track is just going to be absolutely insane. And in general, like I said, to quote Reggie, my body is ready. My body is ready for this epic Mario Kart game.
Mm-hmm, yep. Yeah, it's like Mario Kart in general, and this is like, whoa.
Once enough of us in Weekend Gamers have a hold of the Switch 2 as well as the new Mario Kart, then yeah, we're definitely going to be incorporating that game onto that.
Yep. And honestly, even though I enjoyed Mario Kart 8 Deluxe personally a good deal, I definitely don't think I'm going to be playing that game for a very long time once I get my hands on Mario Kart World, because it really does just look that good.
Yeah, I think the only time that I'll probably end up playing Mario Kart 8 Deluxe is when I'm playing it with VideoGameFan96 or like some birthday specials or whatever, as long as I keep myself quiet or whatever, or just any kind of specials or anything like that. But otherwise, I can see myself just playing Mario Kart World more often whenever I do get my hands on a Switch 2.
Yep. Like I said, I definitely enjoyed what Mario Kart 8 Deluxe had to offer for sure, but I also am just very ready to move on for sure. I am very ready to move on to this new age of Mario Kart and just see, just how much Nintendo is going to go far with this game, especially like we were saying over the years was to keep adding more DLC. But alright.
Yeah, I'm just so excited for Mario Kart. Really am.
Yeah, for sure. I think we all are. And like I said, it's like Nintendo. It's like Nintendo knows us so well. They know we've been looking forward to this game for so long, and they're finally giving it to us.
Right. Yeah.
All right. But anyway, I think we said a lot of pretty good positive stuff about the Switch 2. Obviously, there definitely is a lot to look forward to, and it definitely does seem like Nintendo's making some good decisions. But with that being said, there definitely are some elephants in the room we need to discuss, because there also has been a lot of controversy about this system the past few days as well, and definitely not without good reason. And obviously, I'll talk about probably the biggest thing in just a little bit. But for now, I want to touch upon one thing they showed during the actual Direct that I think most people can agree was really, really scummy and just dumb Nintendo to do, and that is, of course, the fact that they're doing this whole walk-in tour thing for the Switch 2, but they're actually making it a paid thing. Like, honestly, Nintendo, with all due respect, what the actual fuck were you thinking with that? That is such a dumb thing to do.
Yeah, sorry, I was just gonna do this thing where it's like, in the video mode, what's one day game? Like, I'm sorry, Bobby, you kind of screaming at me. Like, what was I really thinking? Like, I mean, it's basically a tech demo for the Switch 2. Like, if anything, make it a free game that you get for the Switch 2. Make it come in pre-installed. Kind of like what the PS4 did, or the PlayStation, or whatever they called it whatever is it they called it whenever you buy a PS5. Because that game is basically a tech demo, so Nintendo, why is it paid? I know, like, Nintendo, I know you guys need money, I get it. But that's just greedy and scummy at this point.
Yeah, exactly. Like, just doing that alone, I think, honestly, just goes to show you where Nintendo's mindset is these days. And honestly, it definitely isn't a good one. Like, in a weird way, I can kind of understand why they're doing it, because obviously they want to try to milk as much money from, their fan base as possible. But even still, it's like, what the hell, I can definitely say for sure that there's no way in hell I'm going to buy that thing. Like, if it was a free thing, I would have happily checked it out, but first time to actually pay for it, I don't even care if it's like 50 cents. It shouldn't be any price. For them doing that is just ridiculous.
Yeah, it's like wanting to Switch all over again.
Yeah, it should be, it should be free, because remember the PS5 came out and they were all pre-installed with Astro's Playroom, and you didn't have to pay for that? Good time.
Yeah.
Yep.
Nintendo Land was even, part of the Wii U bundle as well, in terms of, well, it's just, with what they did as far as the launch and introduction of brand new consoles. So I really have to agree with what was being said as well, that, with Welcome Tour, like, just think about the name Welcome Tour, and that like insinuates like, hey, this is like the start, like introduction of jumping into the Switch 2. So why would that be sold as like a separate entity from like the console itself? Because it just like I'm not getting a Switch 2 just to get Welcome Tour. Like, but that's just like what I'm thinking, and I know that can't be the way most people are also thinking when it comes to this either.
Yeah. Anyone that's getting a Switch 2 or launch is not doing it to pay like $6 or $7 or whatever it is for an app that should be free in the first place. If anything, they're getting it mainly for Mario Kart.
But yeah, the Welcome Tour thing being a paid thing, even if it only is like $6 or $7, like Mark was saying, that is still just absolutely ridiculous.
That's what I was saying earlier, that, you know, that it should have been free, and no, it should have been free, it should have came in, bundled in with the system, or if not that, pre-installed.
It's a tech demo.
Or if not that, you have to download it separately. Whatever, I don't care. They should make it free, because at least on the Wii U, on Nintendo Land, at least it came in as an excuse, because sure, that is a tech demo, but like with Toadin,
It's a very good tech demo.
or whatever, like what Tori was saying from earlier, you know, at least that has an excuse, because, you know, hey, Nintendo Land came bundled in with the Wii U, or at least the basic model, all about the deluxe model. Regardless of such, it came in bundled. My Wii U came with New Super Mario Bros. U, but that's not the point of this conversation here. The point is that you know, that particular game should have just came bundled in with a Switch 2. You know, so that way, at least Nintendo wouldn't get backlash for that.
Yep. And the difference, too, between that, what you were saying, Dominic, about Nintendo Land and, of course, this Welcome Tour thing, is that at least, you know, you can say Nintendo Land was also, like, a full-fledged game. You know, we can argue that it's maybe not, like, the greatest thing Nintendo's ever produced, but it was clearly a full-fledged, you know, game that, you know, that utilized a lot of what the Wii U was capable of and stuff, and, you know, at least it had some fun parts to it. Whereas this Welcome Tour thing, it's...
I don't know, because I never got Nintendo Land, but, yeah.
Yeah. Well, whereas this Welcome Tour thing, it's like, you know, it's a type of thing where it's like, you know, maybe if I was if it was free, I would check it out like maybe like the very first time I booted up this console, and then pretty much never again. There's like absolutely no reason to charge even a penny for that.
Yeah, like I said, it's basically 1-2 Switch all over again.
Yep.
Yeah, and I really think Nintendo was getting swell-headed, like whoever the person was, like, responsible for saying, yep, I'm making the decision, this is going to be a separate pay game that people will have to buy.
Yep.
Yeah, and, you know, with Wii Sports, like, Resort and 1-2 Switch, like I said, I think that's what led whoever, again, was behind this, like, marketing decision to be like, yep, hey, tech demo.
Yep.
Yep.
Yeah, it's insane how, like, it's like the price is ridiculous, and I can't believe it. Like,
well, it's the fact that this particular game, like this particular game, should not have been like a separate paid entity. It really should not have been.
Right. Agreed.
Yep.
Yep, exactly. That's why, like I said, it's free. I mean, I know I'm repeating myself, being a broken record. Like I said, it should have been free, but no, Nintendo should have been Nintendo, like always.
Yep. But like I said, you know, so yeah, I just thought that was like a really, really scummy move on their part. And it's like, you know, Nintendo, you know, I love you as a company. I love your games, and you've helped out a lot in my childhood in a lot of ways. And, you know, I know even saying that might be, you know, I guess kind of sad to some people, but it really is true. Nintendo really has made the lives of so many people, you know, either directly or indirectly better for the gaming properties. But doing this, in all honesty, you know, definitely I think is a really, really bad look for you. So please, Nintendo, do not pull crap like this again. I know you're not going to listen to me, but do not pull this kind of crap. But yeah, overall, I'd say that's probably my thoughts about, you know, Welcome Tour. It, you know, like I said, it was a really, really dumb idea. And I do wish that Nintendo hadn't actually, but I really wish Nintendo had just made it free.
Yeah, because, I mean, sorry to sound like a broken record yet again, but just the way they presented it, the way that it's shown, like, it's very clearly marketed as, hey, here's like a tour of showing you the features of the Switch 2 itself. So philosophically, you know, as a gamer or even a non-gamer, I can't imagine many people who are going to want to invest money in this title. I just, you know, I don't understand that. I'm sorry, but
they're better off just getting Mario Kart World at launch at that point.
Which is bundled with the Switch 2 as one of the options, so hey, I mean, at least there's that.
Yep.
Right, for sure.
Yep. But like I said, you know, it was just one of those things where, you know, Nintendo could have honestly taken something that could have otherwise been really cool and just, you know, gave themselves unnecessary, you know, ammunition to shoot themselves with, you know, when they announced it was going to cost money at all. Because, like, if it was, like, a free thing, that could have just been, like, a nice little addition. But definitely as a paid thing, it's like, no way am I even going to touch that.
Mm-hmm.
But, yeah, I think that's pretty much all I wanted to say, like, as far as, you know, Welcome to where is concerned. Like I said, you know, it was just a really, really dumb thing, and, you know, Nintendo, and not something Nintendo should have done by any stretch of the imagination.
Nope.
But yeah, let's go ahead and go ahead and get started with this thing. And this right here is definitely gonna be the biggest thing of this particular podcast episode, because, you know, like I said, you know, it's what pretty much everybody on the internet has been talking about the past few days. And well, honestly, I feel like it would be a complete and total just, you know, failure and disservice if I did not mention this at all in the video, let alone, you know, kind of made it like the biggest topic of discussion. So let's go ahead and get into it, and that is, of course, the pricing of the Switch 2, in terms of like both not only the console itself, but in terms of the games. And I will go ahead and say right at the bat that in terms of the console prices, and I know this might be maybe somewhat controversial, maybe not, although I have seen this a few people agree with me, but in terms of the console prices, you know, I don't think they're that bad. You know, obviously, we don't know how much they're going to go up in terms of, you know, in terms of, like, Nintendo announced the new price and all that stuff, in terms of, like, you know, obviously, you know, the tariffs or what they're going to announce or whatever, but at least, like, in terms of, like, the original price they announced, in terms of, like, $449 and $499, you know, those are not necessarily that bad. You know, like I said, you know, might be a little bit more expensive than what some people were hoping for or expected, but at least at those kind of prices, I could have at least maybe lived with it, because, you know, it is obviously a much more powerful console, definitely for sure. You know, there definitely is some value with the console, especially with it, you know, being backwards compatible, which there's one against. That's actually not something to really talk about much in this video, actually, but either way, I definitely think it was it was a decent value. But in terms of the games, and this is where I'm going to get a little bit heated, why the fuck is Mario Kart World $80? I don't care if that's, like, literally the best game ever made. There is no excuse at all to make any video game $80. That is just absolutely insane and ridiculous.
Especially
for sure.
KX70.
Yeah.
But here's the thing, though. Okay, so back before the Switch 2 Direct even happened, I was expecting, you know, the console to be at least $400. But at $450, I guess it's not too bad. If you get the regular edition version of the Switch, the regular Switch 2, and then the bundle of $400, I guess. Especially if you get the bundle version, you save $30, which is what I plan on getting. Like I'm trying to say here. But according to what I've been hearing on Reddit, is that Mario Kart World is going to be the exception of that rule, where most Switch 2 games will be $70, while the bigger ones will be $80. But either way, I do agree with what Nick said here, and that basically no game should be $80 because $80, $90 or whatever, because get this, now that Nintendo is pricing Mario World for $80, $90, what do you want to call it, that is going to make other gaming companies, you know, think, oh, and Nintendo is charging Mario Kart World for that amount of money, why not just put this game for $80, $90 as well? And then I can imagine other video game companies are gonna do the same thing that Nintendo is doing it.
They're gonna scare off potential customers doing that.
Yep.
Exactly. That's the whole point I'm trying to make here, Mark.
Yeah, and you think, and I mean, the U.S. prices, I guess, aren't as bad as they probably could have been, but compared to up here, oh boy. Because right now, up here, for the regular console, $630. For the bundle with Mario Kart World, $700.
Yeah, here in the United States, here in the United States, that sounds worse, based on what you're saying than it is over here, Mark. But either way, regardless of such, video game consoles should not even cost like $600, $700 or whatever. I mean, I understand, video game consoles are getting better and better, especially technology-wise, as they increase the price. Increases the prices, I get that. But either way, it's still pretty ridiculous, and especially with the games alone, because, like I said, other companies are gonna think it's okay to do it, so I am at the very least hoping either way, though, that what people say on Reddit is true, that, a Mario Kart World is the exception to this rule, and where most other Switch 2 games would be $70, kind of like Tears of the Kingdom as an example, even though this is a Switch 1 game, but that's besides the point here. Like what Mark said earlier, that's going to pretty much scare off customers and all that, so, yeah.
Yeah.
There's only two other consoles that I recall ever being insanely expensive at their launches. One being the PlayStation 3, launching at $600 US, and that was in 2006.
Oh yeah, I heard that one, Mark, for sure.
Oh yeah.
And then of course the more recent example was when they came out with the PS5 Pro back in November. That was priced at like what, $800 or $900 US or something. Like that is ridiculous.
Yeah, that is.
Screw that. At that point, you may just get a reboot PS5 at that point.
Yeah, exactly. Well, and I know.
Right.
Well, and I know some people pretty much have been saying that like this is kind of like Nintendo's PS3 moment because of like those prices. And well, even though I don't necessarily agree with that 100%, I can definitely understand where the sentiment of that is coming from because like I said, there is just no reason for any game to cost that much, especially when the console's already expensive. And like I said, even like what Dominic was saying, even though that could just be like a game by game basis, even if it turns out to be true that Mario Kart World might just be like a unique game that's like $80 wherever, and that most of the other games won't be, it still does not change the fact that even just that one game, like any game costing that much is still just absolutely insane. And I get that obviously Mario Kart World is gonna be like Tony was saying earlier, it's gonna be gonna have like a big lifespan. That game, it's gonna last pretty much the entire system. But even still, at that kind of price, you better be changing my life.
Yeah, that was my understanding too, as far as like why that pricing was determined. Because I'd also seen different articles talking about the same thing. 70 seems to be the main norm from what's being projected for a lot of the Switch 2 first-party titles. But when it comes to certain games like Mario Kart World, I guess that's why like ones like that had that reasoning for why they're gonna have that extra $10 tacked on them. Am I a fan of it? No, I'm not. But again, it's kind of one of those things where I feel they're doing it just because they know that most people are still gonna give in to it regardless. But when it comes to the actual prices of the games themselves, like I talked about this in my server. Sorry for I wasn't trying to sound pro on it, but I just kind of wanted to reference that because I had kind of given my thoughts about it prior as far as like the costs. The problem with making games, like, I understand inflation's a thing and we can't stop that, but most like people who are going to be buying these games are going to be parents for kids because the Switch like I know a lot of people, still have the Nintendo spirit in their hearts even as they get older, but they're also drawing in new audiences too with younger generations, and a lot of parents are looking at these price tags and thinking games are like movies essentially, and when they see that like the price tag's gonna say $79.99 on it, they're gonna be like, I can't get this because like this is all the more money I have to get for like the birthdays and Christmas budget that we can even really do for this time of the year. And I don't know, it's gonna be hard to like really convince them to be like, yes, that's totally worth that money, to be able to get that for their kids.
Well, yeah, for sure.
Like even for me, like my parents, like, because even the 64, like Nintendo 64 and games at the time, like new games were like 60 to 70 at the time. Funny enough, it depended on like what all was offered. If it had peripherals, like I know Pokemon Stadium was one of the more expensive ones. Side note, but the thing is, it was rare that I ever got a game where it was like up in that price range because they're like, this is over budget, we can't get this. And like I said, the mindset is they look at it and think, these are like movies. Like, why are we paying extra for basically a movie? That's just the mentality they have.
There's a reason why I can see the parents being like, okay, so because the Switch 2 is priced at this, and because this particular Switch 2 game is priced at this, I can imagine them just buying the Switch 1 and just buying the Mario Kart 8 Deluxe. I'm gonna be honest here.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And like I said, I think that's going to be the case for a lot of people too, because, and I think you hit the nail on the head with that, especially, Tony, because, that's really the thing with Nintendo. That's kind of what they've always been known for, right? Is, like, obviously the fact that they've always been, like, this kind of, like, budget-friendly alternative for families and all that stuff. Even though, obviously, Nintendo, consoles, at least since, like, the Wii generation, have kind of been, I guess you could say, like, a bit underpowered compared to other competitors. They've always offered, like, a unique style of games, their own unique, awesome franchise and all that stuff, and, and a lot of other stuff for a very good price. And so it was always attractive to families. But at the price they are now, which is really is not too different from, like, a PS5, and I think is even higher than some of the Xbox consoles these days. But either way, at that price, it's like, some families are going to look elsewhere. And, that's a very unfortunate reality. And I know some people are out there have been saying stuff like that. Well, technically, obviously, the game prices and, obviously, the cost of the system are technically, I guess you could say, like, about the same or maybe even a bit cheaper than, like, some other past consoles when you adjust for inflation and all that stuff. And, and it's like, I get that. But even still, trying to explain that to the average consumer and a lot of stuff, it isn't exactly easy. And even then, I would say it's not really about that. It's about the fact that, like I said, a lot of people these days, they kind of look at gaming as like a hobby and all that stuff. A lot of people are not going to be willing to drop those kind of prices on new video games, especially when they've got so many other priorities in their lives.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, like when I first heard about like the whole pricing stuff with like Mario Kart World, I was like, wow, like $80. I don't know if I should be surprised by this because again, like this is Mario Kart here that we're talking about. Like Nintendo knows that there's going to be a bunch of people that are going to be buying into the game, which yeah, it sounds about right. But I just feel like with that, it's so much. And given by the fact that there's so much gigabytes on the game, it makes kind of sense why, but at the same time, I don't agree with the fact that it has to be like that much, because like I feel like $70 is more of a reasonable price than $80, in my opinion. So,
yeah.
Well, it's just thinking about like think of each of us want to think about our own budgets. Like if it keeps being $80 a popular game, that adds up really bad.
Yeah, exactly. Well, the thing is, like you were saying earlier, is that I definitely do think at least a part of the reason why Nintendo is doing this is because that they're kind of in the headspace now. They got the mentality where they feel they can get away with it because people still buy the games no matter what. And honestly, they might not be entirely wrong about that. I definitely know they're.
I mean, marketing-wise, it makes sense.
Yep.
It's just not something I'm happy about.
Yeah, exactly.
Right.
Yeah, exactly.
I just feel like they need to realize there are some people here that have a budget that can't afford that kind of price because there are some that are like trying to work their butts off to like pay for rent and stuff like that. So I just feel like there are some that can't get, but some that can, all because of their budgets. So I feel like there needs to be like a balance there.
Yep, and
they still have competition to think about with other companies. So
exactly, and definitely for sure the prices being comparable to PlayStation and Xbox, it kind of does, like we've been saying, remove like a long-standing, appealing aspect about Nintendo.
Right, for sure.
And I forgot what I was gonna say, but either way, like I said, the switch to game price and all that stuff, is absolutely criminal. Okay, now remember what I was gonna say. So in terms of and because of how expensive everything is, especially depending on if they obviously announce an even further increase to the console's price because of the whole situation going on with the economy and the tariffs and all that stuff. But if they do announce a further increase of the price, and I don't even mean to sound like so self-absorbed or like so crude about it, but I kind of hope for at least like the first couple months the console is out that it really does not sell too well, or at least doesn't really get so far to the point where Nintendo will think that this is actually a good pricing strategy going forward and will therefore continue to utilize it. Even though this might be wishful thinking, I am kind of hoping for like a similar situation to like the 3DS, and I even brought this up on like a stream I was in the other day, where hopefully they can do a thing where if like if you remember the 3DS era, like how like the first few months that console that portable was out.
Oh yeah, the Ambassadors program. That's right. Which
Yeah.
I actually was a part of that.
Yeah. How the first few months that was out, it wasn't really selling too well because they kind of priced it way too high, like even back then. And then obviously like once later on in the year when they gave it a price cut, as well as of course released classic hits like Mario 3D Land and Mario Kart 7, it helped pretty much save the console and made it actually sell well in the end. I'm kind of hoping we'll see a similar thing here where if the console is not like really flying out the shelf the first couple months, Nintendo will really reevaluate their pricing strategy and hopefully maybe reconsider some of the prices. Now, am I optimistic about that?
I'd rather have a repeat of the 3DS situation than a Wii U situation, where the Wii U situation was spinning all around.
Yeah.
Those are the 3DS. Sure, the 3DS was failing at first, but then it put back up after the price cut. So at least the 3DS had that excuse.
Yeah. But yeah, like I said, I'm hoping that we'll see a situation like that where if it doesn't meet Nintendo's expectations for sales the first couple months, that they'll reconsider their pricing strategy. Now, I'm not really getting my hopes up for that, especially because Nintendo seems to test and see if they can get away with a lot these days. But I am still trying to hold out hope because they have always shown in the past that they can listen whenever they feel it's hurting their bottom line. And so hopefully, like I said, if that happens, we'll see Nintendo reverse course on this at least.
Yeah, definitely. And just for those who are also listening to, like, I'm talking about like people listening to the podcast, by the way. When this goes live or gets put up, but just understand, like, just the same as all of you, like, all of us here are very enthusiastic for Nintendo, and we only hope for the best as far as, like, everyone wanting to have a great time and enjoy the console and the games that are being played for it. Given the controversial nature of, like, the pricing and, like, the recent announcement of the U.S. tariffs, just understand, like, all we can do is just wait and see what unfolds. And I think Nintendo, is still also considering some of that just because of the recent change that they had with ceasing on the pre-orders, because they did want to reevaluate, hey, how's this going to unfold, so that they can kind of get a better idea of how to approach it, too.
Yeah, and who knows, maybe everything will work out in the end, but, we just got to remain cautiously optimistic. But either way, like I said, the game pricing in particular is unfortunately a massive fail on Nintendo's part, and, unfortunately, in a lot of ways, it really did ruin, what was otherwise what otherwise could have been like a really stellar moment from them. Well, that, and like I said, also the whole welcome tour thing you know, because it was kind of playing into that theme. You know, those things kind of ruined, you know, what otherwise probably been like a not out of the park direct for them, where they were firing on all cylinders, and it unfortunately became, rightfully so, I might add, pretty much all everybody wanted to talk about. I mean, heck, you know, as a measure of like how powerful those bad prices really did, you know, influence people. I'm sure I'm sure you all pretty much noticed that, like on that during the Trios live streams, you know, virtually everybody was spamming, you know, drop the price in the chat, and it honestly was definitely good.
I saw those comments. I mean, not when they were live, but I saw in one of the comment section. I believe there's one point so when Nintendo deleted the Nintendo Treehouse live streams, all because that they were spamming that kind of stuff on the videos.
Yeah.
Wait, did they delete the video streams, or did they just disable the comment history?
Well, from what I saw anyways, they deleted the videos they were live.
Yeah, I guess I can't say I'm too surprised, but either way, like I said, it really did make a powerful statement, and, you know, in some ways, I definitely was really happy to see a lot of fellow Nintendo fans, you know, I guess you could say, like, kind of come together in that way. You know, kind of like, you know, I guess you could say, like, peacefully protest against what Nintendo was doing in that regard.
Hey, I mean, sales, or rather lack thereof, does speak volumes on what could happen with pricing downright, so...
Exactly. Like I said, you know, if all goes according to plan, and if, like I said, it doesn't meet their expectations the first few months, you know, we could see like a repeat of the 3DS history, or at least we can only hope.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. But yeah, like I said, you know, and this wasn't necessarily meant to be like an entire like full on, you know, bash Nintendo segment, so I apologize for those listening if it kind of felt that way. But, you know, like I said, it definitely is a big mistake Nintendo was making, and, you know, so hopefully they can go and revert this, because, like I said, you know, if they don't really change course in this, I feel like, unfortunately, a lot of the good stuff we've talked about in this video ultimately won't really matter too much, because, you know, in a lot of other people's eyes, you know, it's just going to be like, you know, oh shit, you know, I can't afford this thing, and, you know, it's way too on my price range, so therefore I'm just going to stick with my Switch 1 or whatever system I'm currently on at this moment.
I mean, despite the setbacks we did talk about, I'm still hyped regardless.
Yeah, but yeah.
Yeah, for sure.
A lot of great stuff was showcased, and, you know, I really think that the positivity and, you know, spirit is going to shine through in the end.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, for sure.
So yeah, to end this video though, on a more positive note, overall though, in spite of that, you know, being negative, I am still looking forward to the Switch 2 a lot. Like I said before, I'm not going to get it at launch just because, like I said, you know, first of all, I need to save up for it, and also because, you know, obviously, I've got a lot of stuff going on this year, and so obviously I kind of want to wait and see what happens to the console and stuff. But either way, when I do eventually get it, I'm sure it's going to be a blast to play. There's going to be obviously a whole new generation of Nintendo goodness to look forward to, and I definitely am excited about it. I'm excited, of course, like I said, about the game chat, obviously Mario Kart World, and the DK Banana and Kirby Air Riders. Definitely excited about, you know, with the upgraded Switch games, the game games coming, like I said. There definitely is a lot of great stuff about the console, and so definitely for sure, you know, I definitely do wish Nintendo the best of luck all the same.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, because, I mean, let's face it, they're not honestly fully at fault for some of those things. They're just at the mercy of what they have to also sift through, but...
Yeah, and it is...
You know, in the end, we still got something great to look forward to.
Yep, for sure. And definitely for sure, whenever I do get a Switch 2, which I'm guessing at this moment will probably be more towards like the end of this year, maybe early next year, depending on what happens with the price. But I digress. Whenever I get my hands on one, it's gonna be a hell of a good time, and I know I'm gonna be spending many hours on it for sure.
Yeah, I'm really excited for this new Mario Kart game, even though it's gonna be a lot. But I'm just so excited to play the game because I'm sure it's gonna be a lot of blast to play. And even I'm so excited to play as my girl Peachy, and like her outfits look so adorable. Like it just makes me so excited. And the Grand Prix, it's like, oh my god, it looks like so new, and like it's like they're adding a twist to it. pretty much, and I'm glad that the courses are looking pretty fun, and it's cool to see that the airship fortress is coming back for Mario Kart DS, as it's one of my favorite courses from the game. So I'm really looking forward to this game in this year, this summer.
For sure. But yeah, if any of you guys also have some last minute thoughts just about the Switch 2, feel free to do so. Because like I said, in general, I'm just really looking forward to the thing, and I think it's going to be a really fun and exciting generation for Nintendo.
Yeah, honestly, my thoughts.
But yeah, I think with all that in mind, I think that's probably going to be it for this particular episode of The Hour of Nick. Thank you all very much for participating with me for this. Thank you very much, Armon, Mark, and Toady, and Dominic, all for being a part of this episode. It was definitely a lot of fun, and like I said, definitely by far, without a shadow of a doubt, my biggest episode of the podcast yet. But definitely not without good reason, because obviously, it's a very great thing that has just happened in the gaming world, and I'm looking forward to seeing what Nintendo's going to offer this generation.
It's a lot of fun, that's for sure.
Yeah.
I see nothing but lots of fun things to look forward to. So.
Yeah.
I'm really happy.
Yeah.
Thank you for having us on, Nick. I appreciate it. I was able to be a part of this as well.
Thank you for having us.
Yeah, no problem. And yeah. Anyway, that's going to do it for this podcast episode. I'll see you guys all for next month, which definitely for sure is probably not going to be as massive as this one was, but should still be a fun time nonetheless. So thank you all for participating, and I'll see you guys all next time. Take care.
Everyone.
Bye.
Bye.